There we are. Welcome to Pour Over Marketing. I had a count in. I've been talking for 3 minutes. This is a lack of coffee thing that I think I'm experiencing, which is good because I really stumbled for the first maybe minute. Uh, not quite had my thoughts together. As you can tell, I'm still wrestling with it a little bit. 99.9% of that is the stress of the week I've had, and I did not start my day the way I normally do. I normally start with, shocker, a cup of coffee. Uh, and today I did not make my coffee until 5 minutes before turning this on. I'm using I love this branding, Constant or Contrast Coffee Company. I just absolutely love their branding. It's a little coffee shop that we were in. I want to say in Green Bay, Marquette. I don't know, but we found this little coffee shop, and they had this great logo, which is all I'm always a sucker for. I love looking in, especially coffee shops. I think coffee shops and bookstores, uh, and I would say music stores can too, depending, make amazing environments because the environment is so important. Okay, time to say hi to everybody. Sarah, hi. Chelsea, hi. Chelsea was my special guest last week. We're going to talk about that in a second. Tanya here for the first time. Her first experience of Pour Over was live in the room with me. Isn't that exciting? And then Gordon. Hey, Gordon. Hey, Gordon. Let's start with you. Uh, mm, I got to tell you guys what this coffee is. It's so good. Um, Gordon, you on LinkedIn, you did exactly what LinkedIn is for. You connected somebody to me, and I ended up having a session with the guy yesterday. It was about podcasting. He wants to start a podcast, and it was fantastic. We ended up talking for an hour. So, Gordon, thank you so much for putting me in the room with him. We had such a great conversation, and what a great guy. What a great guy. So that was excellent. Thank you, Gordon. So let's see. It says here, Sarah, what's up? What's up is I'm slowly waking up today. I don't know. Uh, more coffee. Need more coffee. Chelsea, good morning. Tanya, morning. You have V8 energy. That's your thing, huh? And Gordon, enjoying homemade brew, cold brew. Oh, nice. So this coffee, we were in Minneapolis and we were staying with a friend of ours, and she buys the, 1 pound for $18 coffee. And I'm too cheap. I love getting gifts of that, by the way. But I buy the Costco. Well, I wait for it to go on sale. So 2.5 pounds for $12 is about as high as I go usually. And we're at this friend's. She buys the $18 bag of coffee, and it was delicious. And she and I nerd out about coffee. What a surprise! So we're at Trader Joe's, and I was telling her how I usually buy that $6 French roast, 1 pound of ground coffee, so that I have something extra on hand in case I run out. And they had this fair trade coffee. So fair trade. Oh, let me read this. I'm glad the two of you connected. Please feel free to make an appropriate connection for me if so moved. Of course, Gordon. Of course. In fact, all of you are at the top of my mind. If you know anything about me, I love networking people. I love connecting people. So, Gordon, you are on my radar. Absolutely. So anyway, we're in Trader Joe's, and I'm telling her about that coffee, and we see this fair trade, and my nephew, my niece's husband, uh, we went to Portland and I performed the ceremony, believe it or not, and got to welcome Jake into the family. I love Jake, great guy. He works for a fair trade coffee company. And he had told me before, he said, if you see the words fair trade on any of the coffees at Trader Joe's, they're his company. So it might say Trader Joe's Fair Trade, but it's actually the company he works for that does that. So I always, whenever we're in a place that has his brand, it's a lot of co-ops and that. I always take pictures of their display and send it to him, and he nerds out as much as I do. And I saw there were a bunch of new Fair Trade at Trader Joe's, so I took a picture and I sent it to him. And one of them was this 5 bean blend, and it was cheap. Like a lot of the fair trade, if the other thing is $6, it might be $9. So I don't buy it every time. I buy it once in a while. And I saw this 5 blend, and it was the same price as the cheap French roast that I like. And I was like, oh, hey, let's try this. And my friend was like, I bought it because I was like, hey, I don't want to drink your $17 bag of coffee. Even though she said she's like, please, I bought it for you. It's like, no, I don't want to deplete it. So I bought this and I said, here, let's try this. This is Jake's company. Converted. She could not believe it. She said, I'm going to keep this in my pantry from here on out because this 5 bean blend. So I went and I bought some. That's what I'm drinking. Is fantastic. Now, the moral of that story is all the marketing in the world is great, but one person saying how good what you do is and convincing the person, hey, let's try it, is the greatest marketing in the world. Word of mouth is the greatest marketing in the world. It's the white whale, though, too. As a brand, you try to figure out, how can I get somebody to say my book is the book? Like, oh my God, you've got to read this book. Think about it. Some of your favorite books. How did you find them? Were you walking around at Barnes and Noble and you just happened to go, hey, I love that cover? Maybe. That's how I bought the first Paul Tremblay book. And I love Paul Tremblay. Like, I talk about him all the time. I was wandering around. But how did I find Wilco? I talk about Wilco all the time. How did I find them? My friend Patrick said, you got to hear this, man. You got to pick up this album. And he basically was like, okay, they have it here. It's on sale. Go buy it. I bought it. It sat in my stack for a few weeks till finally I was like, oh, you know what? Patrick recommended it. I owe it a listen. Once again, the power of that suggestion from him made me feel that I owed it to him to at least give it a try. And then, of course, it became what is probably going to be a lifelong love affair between me and listening to Wilco. This 5 bean blend. It was like $6.50 or something. My God. It's amazing how quickly connection can be made. Like, when I like something, I'm completely sold. Take my money. That's it exactly. When we owned a retail store, you fight against the other part of it. There is the personal recommendation, which is what you always want, which is why when you post things, you post something about your album, you post something about your shirt company that you make, whatever. It's always we're saying, hey, would you mind referring a friend? Like, if you can get somebody to refer it, believe it or not, that is the single most powerful marketing tool in my experience. We have a cat that our cat Bernie gets to go outside now. She never leaves the perimeter of our yard, and it's really cute to watch her with her woodland friends. There are a couple of bunnies out there. There are some squirrels and there are birds. And at first we were nervous about all that. Now we've realized, nope, it's literally a Disney movie. The bunnies hop around, and Bernie looks like she's stalking, but she doesn't go anywhere near them and actually wants to play. All these little woodland creatures are having a Disney moment outside. So Bernie just ran by it, caught my eye. Sorry, shiny object. Okay. So shiny object did its job. I'm back onto another subject. So Chelsea was on the show last week. We were at Indie PopCon, and we had our own panel room. And the reason we didn't have a normal pour over, which I have to say felt really weird. I've gotten into a habit with this, where when it was time for pour over, I felt really weird because it was like, oh, I gotta wait. I only had to wait an hour. It was an hour difference. So But it felt really weird because on the clock there, it said, 8 o'clock in the morning, which would be 7 o'clock here. Looking at the clock, I was like, "Oh God, I got pour over." And they're like, "No, no, no, I'm doing it at Indie PopCon. Let's see." Then, uh, uh, wait, I got to get rid of that. I lost you there. There it is. Uh, then at uh 9 o'clock there, which was 8 o'clock here, which is when I normally do the show, uh, I felt completely like ready to go because what happens is I prep the show a little bit. I want it to be really free. I don't want it to feel like a college lecture or anything like that. I want it to be you guys asking questions and me just sharing my marketing thoughts. And but I do prep a little bit. I have some things like today. I have some things I want to talk about. And I was at 9 o'clock that time. My brain was like fully invested in what are we going to talk about. And I'm going, no, no, no. It's not gonna happen. I wait until 10, and then I'm gonna be in a room, and Chelsea, I was hoping was gonna join me live, and she did, and I think it was fabulous, and Chelsea, I have to say something. Oh, and Tanya, who's in our chat, was there too. So her first experience with Pour Over was watching it live at a convention. Uh, but Chelsea, I have to say there was a couple of great moments. I was going to prep, but I definitely came in there with absolutely nothing and decided to just go with the flow. Prep it until someone comes in late and so loudmouth and disruptive. Oh, are you talking about you, Tanya? You are not. Stop it. Uh, yeah. Um, Prepping is interesting, and if anyone's been on panels with me, they know that there is thought behind it. There is prep, but it sure doesn't look like it because I want things to feel spontaneous. And also for the people that I'm up there with, I prefer kind of a live interaction. Like if they have stuff prepped, great. Know that we're probably going to go off the rails. I remember Jackie Gleason. I was reading about Jackie Gleason one time, and he's when they were talking about him on the Honeymooners, and old guy used to, they don't. I don't think they show the Honeymooners on any of the streaming things anymore. So some of you may not even know what I'm talking about, but uh, the show was really great. I always enjoyed the Honeymooners. I thought it was really well written and interesting stuff. Even though if you made it today, we'd have to eliminate some of the domestic abuse that was implied. Uh, how times change. Thank goodness. But the actors that were with him, they all said that Jackie, even though he had the script and everything, he didn't like to rehearse it at all. Now, this is TV. You have to set up your shots. You have to do all these things. And he said, nope, I want the camera there. We're not going to move it around or very little. Uh, Everybody know your lines. We're not going to rehearse it because he wanted spontaneous. And they were allowed to do a modicum of improvisation uh, just because he said when you get that comfortable in the skin of the characters, you're going to say things. And everybody, because they hadn't rehearsed it, because basically they were all professionals, they were able to walk in and just spontaneously do their thing. And I think that adds to the magic of it. And that's something that I've always strived for with the things that between all the live podcasting, uh, even this, like I want to be prepped. I'm ready, but I don't want it to feel that way. I want it to feel spontaneous. Let's see what Gordon says. I only prep by doing research for fiction writing. I do enough to understand the context, and when the time comes, let the research inform me. That's exactly it, Gordon. Because the more you prep and write out, the less you might be in there. Does that make sense? We're watching Larry Sanders right now, another old man reference. But we wanted Molly to see, like we keep working through some of these shows. Like we're watching Sopranos. She's never seen Sopranos. And boy, is that good to go back and watch. Uh, So we started watching Larry Sanders, and she's like, "How have I not seen this before?" And we were like, "Look, this is going to be one of your favorite shows. Settle in. You might not get it in the beginning, but as it goes on, it will worm its way into you." She has not seen the Gary Shandling show because that one we couldn't find anywhere. Uh, but we've talked about it before, and it's like these are shows that were so important to us back in the 80s, early 90s, and now they've kind of nobody talks about them. They've kind of disappeared. So we're trying to round out some of her pop culture education with some of these things. And we go like, hey, let's watch this. Well, the reason I bring this up, he does that on the show. If you watch how he does it, he's got writers. And I don't mean it's very meta. I don't mean in reality. I mean, the Larry character is a talk show host. He's got writers on his show. He goes out, he does his monologue and everything. But if you actually pay attention, Larry breaks all of that. He's informed, he's prepped, but then he just kind of does his thing. And I think that a lot of the really good personalities, or really good entertainment, unless you're talking like a painted film, something where like Sopranos, they're not doing that. They are very prepped. If you're talking something where you're just interacting with an audience, like a Larry Sanders show should be, like the fictional Larry Sanders show should. Get out of this Larry Sanders pothole in a second. I think that that's where some of the magic actually happens. It's one of the reasons I love podcasting so much because, yeah, I hear shows that are really prepped, scripted almost. Forgetting some of the true crime that actually is. Uh, and then you get somebody like me uh, who doesn't. I've tried. I tried outlining things. I tried setting it up, and it just simply takes the magic part out of it. Okay, back to Indie PopCon. It was a great time. We had Writers Row there. We did very well with that. Uh, I think that we broke the mold from the previous year. I think we're about to break it a little bit more, but I think we found a way for it to actually be profitable for us, which is really what we need. You don't go into business just to shake hands. You got to find a way to be profitable without, you know, screwing people over. You deserve to get paid. You deserve to be profitable. Just do it with integrity and do it with the right heart. And that's what we're trying to do here. Like our goal is not simply financial. There have to be financial goals attached to it, but our goal is community and connection. And frankly, Tanya, you were there. Do you think I achieved that? I want to see. Oh, this coffee's so damn good. Tanya went silent on me. Wow. That's a first. So, anyways, I had Chelsea up there. And Chelsea, here's what I wanted to say. This is what I keep, of course, on a. Here we go. You don't even need to finish the sentence, Tanya. Of course. And I spent lots of, I'm going to guess, money. Uh, okay. Wait. Now your guys are writing. I feel like we made such good connections this time at Indy. I do too. Chelsea was obviously there in Writers Row, and then she was doing panels. And that was really the goal. And when I was breaking it down with Erica, who is partnered with my company, Four Horsemen's partnered with my company on this thing, we were talking about it afterwards, and the first thing she said is the entertainment side, which is really my side of it. That's the Southgate Media Group side. She's like, that was spectacular. She said, and she hadn't experienced the first time. She was like, that is like a flawless thing. So now all we got to do is keep tweaking uh the sales and how we do that. So yeah, getting those connections, she was like, from a PR standpoint, this was a home run. It really was. And that was the goal. So when you guys are doing whatever it is you're doing, whatever your marketing effort is, whether it's doing a live event, whether it's your social media, whether it's you're sending out a press release, clearly know what your goal is. And I always say it this way. If it's just money, that's good. That's okay. All right? You can be honest about that. If it's like, I gotta put money in this, so my goal has to be money, I I'm all for it. If it doesn't have to be purely money, money can be the sidecar that you pay attention to, but then what is your goal? Is it brand recognition? Is it interaction? Is it community? Is it getting people to sign up for your newsletter? Is it getting people to go to your website? Is it we have I know that if we can push this one book out of 400, my goal is to push that one book and see what happens. Uh, let's see. Authors recognize me or my daughter and me and spent time with us. I love it. Val remembered us from last year and remembered her and then remembered you and Molly. Yeah, that's right, Tanya. We did recognize you guys. And there were people from last year that I was kind of hoping would be there again. Here's a really funny thing. Unless I'm talking to a huge group, okay. So I did when I one of my panels, not this time, but I talk about one of the panels I do, which is one of Tanya's favorites, which is called Geektastic Cage Match. I've done this, I don't know, 20, 30 times now, and I've done it in like the biggest one we had 350 people in the room. I can't pick out who was in that room. I'm sorry. There are a few people that I could, if I saw them again, I'd be like, hey. But most of the time I'm dealing with 20, 30, even 40 people. That's when I start remembering people. Don't remember everything about them, but like when Tanya walked in, I remembered her exactly. When I saw your daughters, guess who I remember? Or your daughter. I knew your daughter immediately. And I was like, oh. And then she was like, is Molly here? Molly, as soon as I said, Molly, do you recognize? She was like, oh my gosh. Um, we achieved our goal. We recognized people, we knew people, we wanted to make those connections. And all those connections, the reason I'm talking about that, if you look at the first part of this conversation when I was talking about uh, having that word of mouth, Tanya, you tell your friends about us, don't you? You don't even have to answer. I know you do. You are word of mouth for us. You bought books, right? I'm sure you're reading books and being like, oh my gosh, you guys got to read this book by Chelsea. It's so good. Word of mouth. Best marketing in the world. And did we try to manipulate you into that? No, we just knew we want to make connections. We want to meet people. We want to expose them to what we have and ask them to recommend if they like it. It works. So Chelsea came up and I keep stumbling over my whole point. I'm getting through it this time, so stop distracting me. Uh, during this panel, I'm sitting here spewing my ideas and trying to answer some people that were on Facebook that were asking questions. Chinto was in there asking questions who we're going to have to publicly shame. He's not here today. I'm kidding. We would never publicly shame. But we will celebrate him. He's been getting through his finals. So he was writing me yesterday. So congratulations, Chinto. Chase that dream. Anyway, as I was answering stuff, Chelsea was like, oh, and she jumped in and she was giving great advice. And then she said, after she said it, she was like, yeah, I learned that on pour over. And I was like, okay, it's not that I felt like, yes, me. It felt more, here's what the feeling was. I felt like mission accomplished. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. You would think, oh, he's starting a show. It's leading to people hiring him for consulting or to get people on his newsletter. And yeah, those are great byproducts. And yes, I talk about that on here. And yes, I recommend, like, would love it. But when we boil down to what this really is, it's me trying to help my friends, which is my biggest goal. It is me trying to help people make those connections. When Gordon referred me to this guy, uh, it was great. He and I had a great time talking. We now are connected. Uh, when well, so anyway, I'm getting lost again. I want to make sure I finish this point. When Chelsea said that, I didn't feel like, "Yay me, aren't I so smart?" What I felt like was, "Wow, what I'm saying got through. It really helped Chelsea." And Chelsea now has it, and now it's hers. And as somebody who, I'm a college professor too, one of my hats, uh, one of the ultimate learning, the ultimate feeling a teacher can have, who has the right goal, in my opinion, is when a student or somebody you've talked to, I'm not calling you guys students, we're hanging out, but when a student applies what you're saying to what they do and comes to you and tells you, that is the highest level of learning right there. And as somebody sharing knowledge, having somebody reflect that back. When you said that, Chelsea, I didn't know that was something that I had talked about on the show. When I went back and I watched the clip from Indy, I realized, oh, yeah, we talked about that. But I felt like I was hearing your thoughts, and I was hearing your thoughts because you had ingested it, and it became like, yeah, this is a real thought. This is something I want to hold on to. And now it's yours. That's the ultimate learning. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. I don't want it to sound ego driven in any way. Uh, I was just so thrilled to discover that you said that, and that it became part of your knowledge. That is the ultimate. And that's how I feel here too. Chinto is here. Hello, Chinto. We just talked about you. Congratulations on finals, I think. Are you done with finals? I need to hear. It's hard to tell. Uh, Classes have finals. This is the time of year. Sometimes schools have 2 weeks worth of finals. Sometimes teachers do it differently. I just discovered yesterday, I was doing my grades. Oh, you have to turn in your last paper. Okay. I was doing my grades for my students, and our stuff isn't due until Wednesday. And when I was finishing everything out, usually I have to do this, and there's a week to go, and I have to tell everybody like, "Hey, we don't have finals in my class, but you got to get all your stuff done." And I usually have a list for each person, and I only had one student that had one missing piece. And I actually gave them a lot more this semester. I was nervous. I never put what a grade point or a point value was on this huge assignment that I gave them, because I was like, man, if they can't do it, I don't want anybody failing this class. Guess what? They all did it. And I had one student missing one thing, and I wrote to her, and she's so good. I wish I could hire her. And I wrote to her, and she wrote back, and she had a screenshot. She said, "Oh my gosh, it did this weird thing when I submitted. I didn't know if you had it." So here's a screenshot. Literally, first time ever, out of 1,500 points, and that's not including the huge assignment that everybody completed perfectly. Out of 1,500 points, the lowest I have is somebody with 1,480. Never happened. Never happened. So I am so happy. And the students were doing the same thing, writing me saying how much they enjoyed the class, how much they got out of it. One of them started telling me though about like, well, I was at this one job, and I used this one thing, and it was something that I had said. They said I tried this, and oh my god, like now they're looking at me as this person. I helped them become a linchpin in their company, somebody that the bosses look at and go, they really understand how this works. Now they're important. Wow, that's the ultimate learning. Okay, Chelsea, enough about that. This has really helped me, and it's become a very important and one of my favorite parts of Saturday mornings. Oh my God, that feels so good. Uh, Tanya, you are not teaching high schoolers then. They don't do any of their homework. No, Tanya, I'm teaching uh, juniors in college. Guess what? Half of them don't do their homework either. This is the first time I keep working at it. How do I set boundaries, yet be the cool teacher that doesn't have the boundaries that make you feel like I'm being forced into everything? And this time I had kind of a magic formula and it worked. And I also discovered, other than that one assignment, everybody, and I let them complete stuff early, everybody was done 2 weeks before the end of the semester. 2 weeks. And they all had different answers. Like, no, it wasn't like they were sitting around in a group and like, we can manipulate the system, which I've definitely felt before. Uh, yeah, pretty crazy. And as a high schooler, I didn't do my homework either. I was terrible. Barely graduated. Okay. So, done with all that. Indie PopCon was amazing. And thank you again, Chelsea. Uh, my teacher friends would love that formula. I can tell you about it, Tanya. It's not something that would work in every class. It's what worked for me. And it's going to seem so stupid, but it worked. It worked. So I can write that up if you really want it. So other marketing things. First of all, does anybody have any questions? I feel like it's been so long. I feel like it's just me talking. Does anyone have any questions this week? Anything you're working on, thinking about? I really want to do um my question thing with everybody, but I haven't figured out how to present it to you guys. I mean, we did it in here once, but how we can actually set up a Catalyst thing where we do the questions. I'm going to figure it out. I'm definitely going to figure it out. No questions, huh? Wow. I have a question. I have two questions. I know the way you play Catalyst, you're only allowed one. I'm going to ask one, and I want the hive mind. I want you guys to give me some thoughts on it. I'm not allowed to say, no, I tried that. I'm not allowed to poo poo it. I wouldn't poo poo it. I think you're all geniuses. But I'm not allowed to counter them. We're just going to see what the answers are. And because I've got to keep things going so we don't just sit in silence and stare at my lava lamps, I will have to talk, but we're gonna try a little mini version of this. And then if anyone has any questions, you want to try some Catalyst, let's do it. Uh, but here is my question. I want to know your thoughts. And I want, if you can, everybody chime in. This particular thing, we'll call it a show. How would you grow it? And that's the way I'm going to phrase it too. How would you grow it? What are your thoughts? I know if I tell you my thoughts, it's going to taint it somewhat. So I want to hear, start typing. Start typing some ideas to me. And I'll play with the banners over here. Yeah, and as long as I've got you thinking about that, today, a couple weeks ago, we were recording on Record Store Day, which, by the way, big score for us. We got the Whole Love Wilco box set. It is gorgeous, 3 record set, great album. Today is Free Comic Book Day and May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. And for my Catholic friends in here, you respond with, and also with you. So it is May the 4th. Sitting right here with me is Jabba. I've got to repair. So yeah, going to celebrate a little May the 4th, and I have no idea how. Probably just throw the movies on while I'm working, and they'll be in the background, and I'll look up and go, oh, it's Star Wars Day. But it is Free Comic Book Day. And for Free Comic Book Day, I urge everybody listening to go to your local comic shop. Pick up a few free comics. They might limit you. They might give you 3. That's kind of a standard. There's a place by us that is like, here, take 10. Great. And I also encourage you when you do that, if you like it, buy some things. Okay. Really, the reason for Free Comic Book Day is to drive people into the store, make them familiar with the store. A goal is actually building community because once you go in, that seal is broken and you go like, oh, this is my local comic store. And oh, the owner's a nice person. And hey, look, there's other people here that aren't like thinking it's weird that I'm in a comic book store, which it's not. But I know there's that stigma sometimes. People like I know people that read comics that tell me like, "Oh, I never go into a comic book store." It's like I don't want to look like I'm on the Big Bang Theory. It's like, okay, first of all, don't worry about it. Nobody's judging. Second of all, go in there, get some free comics. What I look for are indie comics. There's always, the Marvel and the DC stuff. It's like, okay, great. But I don't care. I want the indie comics. I want to see the stuff where I get exposed to new books, new ideas. Man, there have been years where the haul has been amazing. Stuff that I read and I went, oh my God, I want this whole series. And then it has hooked me in. It has gotten me to buy that stuff. I remember a few years ago when Walking Dead was first becoming popular. They did a free comic book day, an exclusive book. It was the story of Michonne, which was not part of the regular series. It was not printed in the regular series for a while. Just a little one-off. And it was one of the best stories in the whole Walking Dead franchise at that point. It was so fantastic. And it was actually the first Walking Dead comic I read. I read it and immediately went, what is going on here? Went out and bought the first graphic novel. That's how long ago it was. That had the first like 6 issues in it. Read them like I would like, oh my God, just poured through it. Went, oh my God, I love this. And that got me to watch the show and read all the comics and just amazing. So the reason I'm telling you this is there's gold. There's things that are going to make you happy and enrich your life. Go into your local comic book store, pick up some free comics, and if you are so inclined, buy something because it does support the store. I always say, even if you don't, you now know you can go back in and buy something. Okay, we got ideas. I am so happy. Gordon. One idea, paid Facebook ads. Results might be mixed. Another, have attendees and guests speak out about this amongst their networks. There are also several virtual Zoom-based networking groups where you could be a guest speaker. I'm part of one and can make the referral. Gordon, please. Please. I would love to be doing public speaking more. I would love to be, I'm always up. We were just talking about this yesterday. I'm back on the wagon of basically any podcast that asks me on, I'm on. Networking groups, anyone that needs a speaker or wants to do Q&As. I did a marvelous Q&A. Not that my thing was marvelous. Not ego-driven. But the Q&A thing was so great. I did it for the Horror Writers Association of America. I loved it. And I didn't know. Everyone was really nice and thanked me and everything. But I'm still getting it. When we were at Indie PopCon, we had Ananda Lima there, who is part of the Horror Writers Association. She was referred to me to be on Writers Row by a friend of mine that's in it. When she got there, she said, I didn't know it was you. And I said, what? She goes, I watched your AMA for Horror Writers Association. She says, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell everybody I was here with you. Fantastic. Have me back. Gordon, that's a beautiful one. Thank you. Okay, next one would be Tanya's. This is my first time here. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Is that what you're saying? No. I would love to hear spin-off group outs with different styles of marketing for different types of businesses, ideas of social media posts, how to encourage people to respond to posts. I like the thought of asking questions and we all bounce off of each other. We'll go back to all of this. Yes, these are great ideas. These are great ideas. And I would love to get some spin-off groups going. In fact, That's why I need to grow it. We've got the same roughly 10 people that come in and out of this with the occasional, we'll call them a newbie that pops in. And what's funny is a lot of the newbies, almost all of them reach out to me afterwards and they love it. They're just not a regular. Uh, but yes, these are great ideas. Okay, next one. Chelsea. Maybe doing a highlight on some small business or person that you saw did something cool, unique marketing for themselves and tag them. Their followers would see they are tagged and jump over into a pour over. Yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. These are brilliant ideas, you guys. We were talking about something that it just sparked my mind on this. I want to share something. This has not been made public. It's not even a fully formed idea yet. But this is casual. It's not my official platform. So it's so tied to that. But I hadn't thought of it for this. See? Uh, so for my day job is vice president of marketing and growth for Four Horsemen. We've talked about that before, and some of you are part of Four Horsemen. Uh, one of the ideas that I toyed with this week and I started exploring, and it looks like I'm going to do it. I just got to figure it out quickly. And it came out of Indie PopCon because of our panels and because of the response that we got. I've helped some different businesses with crowdfunding. I helped an independent horror movie, and she was not hitting her number, and I said, "Let me jump in." I didn't get paid for it or anything. I just said, "Hey, let me help you out. Let's try to help you hit the number." Uh, and what I did was I contacted a friend of mine that had a Twitch channel. Now I have a Twitch channel, but I don't use it. But I contacted him. He has 20,000 followers, and I said, "Hey, man." What I say to everybody, "Hey, man." I get made fun of by my daughter all the time for that. Uh, Actual quote, "Hey, man, uh, I've got to do some kind of fundraising thing for this film. What if I use your Twitch channel and we put together like a 4-hour mini marathon? I'll bring in some podcasts. We'll play a game or something because I know that's popular on there. What do you think?" And he said, "Yeah, man, that's incredible content." And we did. And frankly, it was a failure. It didn't bring in very much, but the content was excellent. And that's what everybody involved. In fact, the filmmaker was like, "Oh, I wish I could have done this uh, before. I wish I could have done this like a couple of weeks ago and made people aware of it." Because the reason it failed is she didn't tell anybody we were doing it. So we threw it together. I got her guess. It was really good, but nobody knew. She was relying on the Twitch algorithm to make people aware. Well, uh, that's not anything I can control. Another one I helped with, they were getting towards the end of their Kickstarter. They felt like they were kind of far from it. They were not. I knew they were going to hit it, but he was one that had seen me do this other thing. He says, "Is there any way you could do this?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we threw it together and they made about $4,000, which put them over the top on their Kickstarter. And they didn't hammer it. They just did the thing. But Twitch is a culture where people know I'm watching this. Hey, I can hit donate and throw in a couple of bucks because I like what I'm seeing. I want them to do more. It's a great culture. I wish that a lot of other things had that. I wish this had a donate button on it. That would be very helpful, but it's not. So the idea is we are going to start doing, I think we're going to call it Writers Row Live on my Twitch channel. And we'll do 2 hours a week. And I think we're going to just start it out by doing panels and author interviews. And when you were saying uh, highlight a company, get them to tag or whatever, that is kind of the idea. Is not only will I take panels that we've done, I have Chelsea and Val come on and do their panel together, which would be a lot of fun, right? But then I invite somebody from the outside. I invite a publisher or a writer from Tor. I invite a marketing person from, this other company, or I invite uh, somebody, like I was talking to somebody the other day that has a business, a retail business, and they were saying all these really cool ideas, and I was like, hey, I want to have you on my show. I'm going to put you on New Media Lab. But yeah, let's have him come on and be a guest on Writers Row Lab, or Writers Row Live, Writers Row Lab, and throw it up there and see. Number one, it would be great if people donated. We could just throw that into the coffers for Four Horsemen, right? Because any business needs capital, so it's good. Any idea like that, it's marketing. It's helping. Like, oh, now we can do this. Now we can expand our video reach, or we can make trailers or whatever it is. So, it's like if we were sitting there doing begging for it, that's one thing. That's not a good look for a business. But putting up things like this, then where people feel like, hey, I'm compelled, I want to help out, I like this content, throwing it in there, I think that's a good idea. But then getting others involved and encouraging them. And here's another thing: when you do that, so let's say any of you have a newsletter or have a podcast or whatever it is you do that reaches outward, and you say, you know what, I'm going to invite Gordon on. I'm going to ask him 3 questions about his business so that he can promote his business, right? And then he comes on, and we put that on the newsletter. We put that on the podcast. We have him on the podcast. You got to make sure that, number one, you tag them, okay? That you promote them, give it freely back. And then you, as the guest, well, 2 things. You also need to make it easy for them to promote you. I'm not talking the guest. I'm talking you, the person with the newsletter. You need to send them a thing that say, hey, the newsletter came out. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind sharing this on your social media, let your people know that you were guested. You were such a great guest. I'd love for your fans, your followers to know about you, right? And same thing in reverse. You, as the guest, you need to be proactive and say, hey, I was on this. I do this. I go back because I've been on so many different podcasts as a guest. I will randomly go back and share. In fact, today I'm going to probably go back and share. There's a show that's no longer produced called Remake This Movie Right. And for their big, like, 200th anniversary show, the most requested guest, from what they told me, was me. Uh, and they did Star Wars. Today's the day to repost it. And I figured I'm going to bring the heat. So I went on and I did about a 20-minute rail about what I would fix about the original Star Wars. If we're remaking it, what would I do? And I'm sure it infuriated some people. But I thought, I'm going to just lay it out here. And afterwards, the host was really funny. Aaron was like, well, we've never had somebody do that. All the times you've been on, you talk for 3 to 5 minutes. He's like, never had that. He said, I wasn't going to stop this train. And he goes, I would hand you the reins to that movie. Like, you did it. You did the impossible. You remade Star Wars and you improved on things. I improved on things to Aaron and I, not to the world, I have a feeling. But I take that and I'm going to reshare it. You, as the guest, need to look at things you've been on. Can you repurpose it? Can you put it back out there? Yes, it helps you, but actually, if you go at it, I'm going at it saying, hey, that show's not around anymore, but Aaron has another show. So I share that, and then I put a little note. By the way, Aaron has the show Smirk now. It's really great. Check it out. Promo for him, promo for me. He was kind enough to have me on. I'm thanking him in a way that is genuine, that he can hopefully get some listeners from. By the way, Smirk is a very good show. Okay, Gordon, what did you say? Oh, wait, no, I got other ones. Before I get to you, Gordon. Chinto, do pour-overs live at local coffee shops, inviting local businesses to help them with marketing. This may have been done like a pour-over seconds. May have to be done like a pour-over seconds, since 8 a.m. Saturday may not work for live shows. Right. Pour over happy hour. I've got the Thursday night show that I occasionally do. Yeah, that might be interesting. Well, I mean, it is interesting. That might be something I'm gonna have to sit down and map out. I know the Blue Box would have me there in a second. Uh, Chelsea, ooh, Writers Row Live, I love it. Chelsea, you're booked. Tanya, Writers Row Live will be a hoot. Guess I'll have to figure out Twitch. Nothing to figure out. It's just like this. You'll just get I'll just send out a thing. I'll post a thing on Facebook. Follow my newsletter. There's actually a Pour Over Marketing newsletter that as of I think this week I'm going to start going weekly with. I'm now doing 3 newsletters, and I realized I've got 2 that I make, 3 that I make that are fast for me that I should be putting out. Pour Over is one of them. The other one is um, the podcast props. It's another thing that I have that I've kind of neglected. So that one is called Mic Drop. So I'm going to put that one out, and then I've got one for Southgate Media Group that was so great, but it was a lot of work, and I'm going to pare it back down. So I'll get you a link to the newsletter. Absolutely. And then Gordon, I'll have to check Twitch out in detail. I use it to watch my friends' MST3K movie riffing streams and the occasional all-night 80s music marathon. Yeah, here's the deal, Gordon, and everybody. Twitch is a really interesting space. It's a space where the users are used to spending money. If you watch a lot of the marketing stuff about it, uh, like when people talk about it, what they show is, hold on, I'm looking up. Oh, I can't do it that fast. My newsletter link. It's on Substack. Yep, I'm gonna have to find it. Sorry, guys. I wasn't as prepared. This is why I need a producer, somebody I can say, "Give me my Substack link. Psh, put it up here." Um, I will share those things. Absolutely. Probably DM Tanya and Gordon with those newsletter links. Uh, so Twitch, if you read the media, it's always, girls playing video games, and it looks like that's where everything is happening, and it really isn't. And in fact, it's interesting because it did start as a video game platform. There are now people, and when you ask about it, that's what people always say it is, but it's actually that's the gateway. There are actual like shows, live shows, like podcasts and talk shows on there. We used to do, in fact, I was told back 10 years ago that we were the first to break the mold. We used to set up iPhones and iPads around the Blue Box when we did Live at the Blue Box, our live 3-hour uh, podcast every Saturday night for 5 years. So that first year, we were like, how do we expand our reach? We started putting it on Facebook. We put it on Periscope and Meerkat, if you remember those. I ran it on Twitch. So that's why we started our Twitch channel, and we basically just streamed this live podcast thing, and it was really interesting. And at the time, Twitch only had people playing video games. And a marketing person from Twitch wrote to me and said, "What you're doing isn't video game based, uh, or is it? We're not sure." We're not sure what you're doing, but it's we want to talk about it. So, oh, yep, Periscope. Uh, so here's why I said that. Michael Copeland, Periscope. So we told them what we were doing, and there was a live show, and they said, "Yeah, well, we won't shut you off. Keep trying." We did it for about 6 months. Really didn't get any traction, but we were a live podcast show from a coffee shop. It was really cool looking on there, but it didn't get traction. Now I go on and I see people doing very similar stuff to what we did back then. And they seem to be, because the culture is to tip and to donate as you go on. They like something, they think it's funny, they throw $1 in, whatever. Are you going to get rich off it? Yeah, eventually you could. I actually met a guy who he was in his 40s. He was playing retro games. He said his friend invited him on a show to play a game, and he was like, I don't know what this is. Set him up with the stuff so he could play it live on Twitch. He thought it was a little weird, I thought it was, he was like, I'm not sure if I want this out in the world. So he put on a funny glasses and a dumb hat, and it was dumb. I hated it actually. But he called himself like Uncle whatever plays games. He played it on this guy's show, had fun, decided, every Friday night I'll just sit and play video games and wear this thing. He was making money hand over fist. And all he was doing was sitting there playing, and he'd talk a little bit. Twitch is kind of the Wild West. There is potential there. And running these marathon things, I mean, we made about 4 grand in about 4 hours. And that was without having an audience built up. We were using other audiences. One of the things that got really interesting that I found out about on there is a thing called raids. So you're doing your show, and you're playing your game, or you're doing a talk show like this. And then you go, hey, everybody, we're wrapping up here. But I found out there's another show called whatever Marketing World. We're going to do a raid, and you can take your whole group and raid that other show. You show up in their chat thing. You're like, raid, and the host will be like, oh, hey, welcome everybody. And we had like 100 people stream in the one thing, and people stayed and watched for a bit, and then they donated some because their host was saying, hey, this is really cool. I like these guys. If you were thinking, stop donating to me tonight, donate something to them. Let's help these guys. And it bumped everything up. Twitch is interesting. So my newsletter, I can't do it this quickly because I'm not going to search for passwords. I don't know why. Maybe it's in my other one. I have to work with multiple things here. Oh, it is. Okay. Now I just got to find if I can get the link for you quickly enough. Here's one. So this one is, oh my gosh, the name on it on the link was one that I did for Southgate Media Group, did about 2 things and then ditched the whole thing. Mic drop newsletter. Okay. So this is the first one. And then the second one, oops. Oh no, sorry guys, that's pour over marketing. That's pour over marketing. This, nope. Yeah, I've gone silent because I can't find where it is. These are all on Substack. Yeah, bear with me while I figure this one out. We'll go to my homepage. Yeah. Here's one of the posts. Okay. This is the other one. There we go. It's publishing it everywhere. The first one is not the mic drop newsletter. The first one is pour over marketing, where I'm going to have a weekly newsletter on there. I think I've made like 2 posts so far. I'm definitely going to expand that out. The second one that I have on there is actually to one of the posts. So I'm going to have to trim these down. Like, I don't want to do it on the fly and make you guys sit through it. But that is the mic drop one. We also have, those are both through Substack, which I'm a huge, huge fan of Substack. If you want to ask me more about that, write to me and I'll fill you in. I think it's fantastic. It's like a newsletter social media platform. I've made such wonderful connections through Substack. It's fantastic. If you look at the scroll at the bottom, New Media Lab has its own YouTube channel also, which I've sorely neglected for a long time, but I've been building content that's going to start going on there. In fact, all the pour over marketing stuff is going to go on there, including going back to Tanya's point about some groups that do some specific things. I've actually started developing some short little trainings on some of these things where it's going to pretty much look like this, but I'm going to walk you through how to optimize this, how to reach out for this. and do it a little bit more of a talk through so you can just take notes and improve your stuff. I think that would really be helpful. I know for me, I watch those things all the time. If you look at what I've done in my real life, uh, like the car repairs, all of it. I'm not a wrench, man. I am somebody who is determined to learn and apply. So, like this last year, our car needed a new alternator. I watched videos on YouTube on how to replace an alternator. By the way, don't replace your own alternator. It was a huge, 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 huge pain in my butt, but I did it. Um, End of the day, I mean, yes, I saved a couple $100, but the amount of time it took me to figure it all out might have been worth a couple $100. But I do all my own breaks. And how do I learn it? From watching YouTube videos. And I figure same thing with marketing, like how to utilize Substack, uh edit a podcast, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be making videos on. Okay, more questions here. Chinto. Oh yeah, Chinto started a Substack because we had talked about it. I've been enjoying Substack. Yeah, okay. You don't have any connections yet. So Chinto, let's talk about that for a second. I was going to ask, why drive traffic to Substack instead of my own property? I'll tell you why, Michael. Drive it to your own property as well. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with double dipping where the people can find it. With Substack, what I have found is it's easy to find other newsletters on there that are in your niche, and reaching out to the people that make them, making the connections. What I like about it is, so I have a blog, a film blog, that I'll talk about another time, that I don't do it on Substack, and what I find is getting those connections where other bloggers share it has been tricky. I've had to keep working to get those connections going. Whereas on Substack, it's a click. So like there are these two women that do podcast consulting. They're really good, Lauren and Ariel. And I think, in fact, the one I shared on here was based on the one for Mic Drop. The first one there was based on something that one of their posts, which they did a post, which was like top 10 things happening in podcasting in 2021. Okay. And I really liked it. I thought it was a good post. So I went, okay, I'm going to write from my perspective. And I wrote the same kind of thing. And then I sent it to them and said, hey, I really liked yours. And they said, oh, this is awesome. We're going to share it. They shared it. It went out to their newsletter followers and said, hey, everybody, we found another list we really liked. You should check out Rob's Substack and subscribe. My subscriber count went up. From that one, they had other newsletters that followed them that started reaching out to me. That's why I like Substack. It created this, I'm feeding off their audience and their audience and their audience, and they're feeding off my audience, and it started to grow. Now, granted, I have not done a lot with it. A lot of these things, I test the waters and go, okay, I'm going to back off for right now because I've got 800 things on my plate. But now I'm starting to get active again, and I will get active on it for sure. But already, like, I posted just a stream of this, and I had 4 different marketing people reach out to me, not to sell me anything, but to say, that was really good. Keep doing this. That's why. Because if I put the blog on my website, it has to be people that are looking for it on my website. Okay. Then you get into SEO and you try to attract people and you have to advertise your way out or market your thing. But here it's like the marketing is super organic. If people search the hashtag podcast marketing, your newsletter is likely going to show up in there. That's what they're looking for. Pay attention to your keywords. Go to SEM Rush and use their free marketing magic tool, keyword magic tool, I think it's called, and type in podcast marketing if that's what your thing's about. If your thing is about werewolves. Type in werewolves and see what are the keywords that people are using and get those in your thing and hashtag it that way. Put a couple of those hashtags on there and see what happens. And then you actively reach out to people. What works great on Facebook is groups, right? I don't like the Facebook pages. They're okay. The ones where I get all the action and conversation and things happening are the groups, because you're making those connections and you're doing this kind of thing, this like responding to people and that's exactly what Substack does. I hope that explanation helped. And that's my experience with it. Any of this stuff, you can get somebody who rah-rahs just about anything. Uh, I was actually helping a client that was the first one that introduced me to Substack that made me go, I'll give it a try. And I wrote one thing and I got all these little connections off of it. And actually, I'm not even talking the followers, because my follower count's not very high. My share count is pretty good. But even better, I've guested on maybe 4 or 5 podcasts about podcast marketing because somebody saw on Substack my articles. That's worth it. That's worth it. Okay, we've gone after 9:00. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to keep you late. I hope this was a good one today. This was a little funny. We were kind of all over the place in the beginning, but I hope everybody got something out of it. If you have questions, write to me. I'm going to take notes on the things you guys said. I think those were great ideas. Next week, I want you to come with questions. Okay, and if you have ideas on how to grow this, how to reach more people, please reach out to me. I am wide open, listening and figuring it out. Uh, now that I've exposed this Twitch thing that I want to do. We've also talked about other things because our channel can have programming all the time. There are other things, and including one of them was how do we not only take this live thing, but maybe create maybe the after hours one goes through our Twitch channel, or maybe we stream it all through Twitch. I don't know. And by the way, I did look at TikTok Live. I have to have 1,000 followers. I've done 0 with TikTok. I haven't started yet. So once we hit 1,000 there, we can do this on TikTok Live too, which I know will make this grow. So there we go, everybody. Have a fabulous weekend. May the 4th be with you. Go get some free comics now. It's Free Comic Book Day. Support those local comic shops. If you want to put it in the thread here, well, it's not gone yet, Chinto. You said it got banned. It's still there. You can still do stuff there. But listen, if you have a comic book store near you that you want to give a shout out to, throw it in the thread. Just say, hey, I love this comic book store. Keith's Comics, great place. My library is great. Schaumburg Public Library. You go down there and they give you, they have free comics in there. It's awesome. And Chito, I am sorry about your tire. He had tire issues this week, bad stuff. So he's going to spend his weekend at the tire shop. But you can sit and think about all your marketing and what you're going to do and how you're going to become the next Art Baltazar. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.